I've told this story before on the podcast. I'll tell it again briefly. I was on an airplane sitting next to a guy. And yeah, it's the manager who, if one of the machines breaks down, then he has to turn them off, reset, whatever, recalibrate or whatever. But it's one or two people working at a factory that used to employ 100. Now you're from Central Ohio. You've seen
Southwest. Yeah.
Southwest? Well,
Southwest.
you're near.
Dayton.
Okay.
Dayton is Southwest Ohio.
Okay.
Columbus is Central. Yeah.
Okay. So Southwest Ohio, but you've seen what happened throughout Ohio. You've seen what's deindustrialization has happened. What it has gutted Ohio. I had a road trip where I went across Ohio, gutted. Went across Pennsylvania, gutted. I mean, gutted. And
drive through like Indiana, Gary, Indiana. Holy shit.
God, Gary, Indiana is horrible. I mean, not just Gary. Janine saw a picture of Toledo at night, Toledo by night, and it looked really, really cute. And we drove by and we spent the night there, and it was not, Ted. This will come as no surprise.
No. One of the times I've been to Afghanistan and I was shot at there. I've been shot at in Toledo.
Were you really?
Yeah, I had it coming.
Okay. Time. Okay. You gotta.
So my girlfriend.
Tell the story.
16 years old. My girlfriend and I and her female friend, the three of us. We were driving my 74 Nova through the mean streets of Toledo. It was the late 70s, and it was about 9 o'clock at night, dark, and there was this was the 70s, and so there was an old-fashioned pimp, with the big hat and the get-up, like Dolomite style, and we insulted him and made fun of him foolishly, and he shot at our car. At my car, and there was a hole in the trunk, which I never repaired because I thought it was the most awesome thing in the world. Never found the slug, but yeah, maybe it was inside the car rattling around.
Well, did you drop off 2 live girls at the end of your trip, or
just everyone came home alive? But it was kind of like nobody was like, "How dare you?" See, that's the difference. Gen X, we fucked around and we found out, right? So it's note to selves, don't do that anymore.
I got to ask, maybe when we finish off air, what you were doing with 2 girls in Toledo in your car.
We were looking for a nightclub. It was the 70s.
You're 16.
It was the 70s. We'd already hello, you were there. You know what happened. You know how it was.
Yeah. Well, I was in Madison, Wisconsin. We didn't have the crazy live life to the fullest existence that you had in Dayton.
This is the difference between Democratic and Republican childhoods.
Mine was boring.
I bet there was plenty of wildness to be found there.
Oh God, yeah. No, I mean I witnessed it and heard about it. I just didn't participate. Exactly. So all of this being said, you can see where we are emotionally and why we are so damn depressed, because there doesn't seem to be a future. You were growing up in southwestern Ohio, me growing up in Madison, Wisconsin in the 70s, even with stagflation, even with, with Jimmy Carter, and, there's still this idea that you were going to get a job. You were going to be the breadwinner as the man. You're going to be the breadwinner, and you were going to have, a couple 2.3 kids. You're going to have the house. You're going to have the car. You're going to send the kids to college. You're going to retire in Boca Raton. That's what was going to happen. I think there's no, the thing here where, the oligarchs don't care about you. They don't. That's why Gen Z, while they're getting fired left and right, and it sounds like many of them probably should, many of them are getting laid off. They're losing their jobs. They're jumping from job to job because there's no loyalty. Because guess what, kids? What did the early part of this century teach us? There's no loyalty to us. There's zero loyalty to the employee now. There used to be. My father worked at a television station. The television station. Ted, it keeps going.
I'm disciplining my cat. Keep going.
Okay, well, that's much more important than doing this. But my
Oh,
dad,
believe me,
there's
he's
actually
carrying
a
my
company
part.
there's actually a company doctor. There's a company. There's a group of doctors that my Channel 8 CBS in San Diego. They contracted with this practice,
Hi,
and
witnessing with the Channel 8 news team and traffic and weather.
yes, and you know who was the weather girl for a short period of time before my father fired her?
Mm.
Raquel Welch.
Whoa. Why did he
You know
fire
who?
her? That was a bit.
Well,
I deeply question your father's management skills.
because she was terrible. She was real, and she did not improve, and didn't think
Does
she
not
needed
matter.
to. You may be right, but you know who one of his directors was? Who came through for like a blink of an eye too. It's Bob Fosse.
Oh, that's
I'm,
strange.
I'm not kidding. Yeah. Could you imagine Bob Fosse? Okay, here comes the weather. Hands, jazz hands, jazz hands, jazz hands, jazz hands. I don't. He said he was awful too, and he wouldn't really do it in a straightforward manner, which you have to do for local news. Anyway, your father, my father, you know, we came up in an environment, if not a literal household, this was this was kind of a given. That has evaporated. That is gone. That is
Well, here's the difference, right? You mentioned. I want to bring it back to the Ohio thing. So growing up in Ohio, right, it was very bleak. I graduated from high school in 1981, and while I was, and basically throughout my childhood, and then when I went to college, I saw companies like Mead Paper Corporation, which most Americans, if they were in school, had a spiral bound notebook from
sure.
Mead
No, I
Paper.
remember Mead. Absolutely.
They went out of they left and went out of business. Then there was National Cash Register, aka the Cash.
Oh yeah.
NCR was if you look at those beautiful old cash registers from the 20s, 30s, they all say National. That's NCR, all made in Dayton. At one time in the 1950s, 9 out of 10 managers, middle managers, and upper managers in Fortune 500 companies around the country went to the NCR Management Training School. It was a colossus. Okay, NCR was massive. It had its own theme park for employees. It was featured on 60 Minutes as a paternalistic company where they had free Coke machines. You just went and pushed the button, and the can would drop. Or actually, I think it was the little door remember the thin little door where
Oh
you pulled
yeah.
out the crank.
And about
So
30% of the time it didn't work.
the 16
And you lost your
right,
friggin'
but
nickel.
they were that, yeah, and you were sad about that. And you might kick the machine, thus ensuring that it would be less likely to work next time. But anyway, the great cycle of life. But it was like, but the point is, NCR was a colossus, and they also modernized. They invented one of the very first ATM machines,
Oh wow.
and
I didn't know that.
you see them all over. But they didn't keep. They just couldn't pivot. Ultimately, there was too much foreign competition, and they closed. They moved to Atlanta. They reduced their workforce enormously, and it was just like one business after another like that. Dayton Press, where Time, Newsweek, and U.S. News and World Report were printed for the entire country, went out of business. So it was like, and these were massive magazines with like circulations of 15+ million each per week.
Yeah.
So all these jobs. So the point here is that like I had an option, right? I left. I went to college in New York, and pretty much have lived in New York most of my life ever since. New York has, for all of its faults, has jobs. That's just not true, everywhere else. Okay, the problem now is there's no place to run. You can't go to, if you're so like there's no safe zone anymore. You can't so like you can be Gen Z when you should be really up and coming, and you're in New York or you're LA or Washington, and you're still unemployed or underemployed or both. And it's like that's the real scary part, is that we're in a stagnant economy.
Well, not if you're super rich. And the president of the United States says, you should buy your stocks now. Buy them now. And then he makes his announcement. And then it's just like, well,
He sounds just
that's,
like Bush when he was telling everyone to stop stopping after 9/11.
yeah. Yeah, well, worse because this was cynical and
Coolest,
manipulative of the
out of
markets. But
touch.
that's so going forward. That's I mean, and so and nobody is addressing this, Ted. You talk about this a lot in your work, in your columns, and in your cartoons. You talk about how no one in power is really addressing what is really a very very important issue, and that is the psychological aspect of what this economy is doing. Kamala Harris certainly didn't address it in a serious way. Uh, Trump addresses it in a
Yeah.
non-serious way, but we don't have any national figures
He
that are
does sort of
stepping
address
forward.
it, but yes, you're right.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Trump
Say that
does
again.
address it, but like you said, Trump does address it,
Yeah.
albeit in a stupid way.
Yes. In a very stupid way, in a very harmful to the economy way, which is going to cause even more problems. But the psychological issue and the crushing nature of this economy, and it's not new. This has been going on for, let's just be, for argument's sake, from 2001 coming to today, is soul crushing. Now, how do you fix that? Well, I think one of the ways you do it is, I mean, there are examples here. And I think FDR, we keep coming back to FDR, Trump's first 100 days. And the Democrats are like, where did he come up with that? It's like, well, if you were teaching history in the classrooms, you'd learn that he did this. But FDR gave, in the very depth, 25% unemployment, Ted, at least. He still
That's
had
right.
Americans, by the time he was sworn in, had Americans saying, okay, he gets it. He recognizes and verbalizes consistently, not one speech they give to some place like, those poor slobs in central Ohio. Like that would be Kamala's thing. She'd have the notion of the day, but he would constantly be talking about an optimistic view of how the working people were going to be back at work and they're going to be better than ever. It took a decade, but by gum, he did it.
But remember how he tried to accomplish that. He tried to he turned the the U.S. government into one of the biggest employers, right? In order to so he created the Work Progress Administration, the WPA, the Civilian Conservation Corps, CCC, which you'll still see that works if you go into many parks across this country. You will be on trails and that were cleared by CCC encampments. It gave a sense of pride. I mean, there's kind of a lot of economic, interestingly, right? FDR's The New Deal, which I admire a lot, didn't really, end the Depression. World War II ended the Depression, but it did kind of save the country from communism. And it because it basically was like, it's kind of like the COVID PPP funds. It just pumped life into people's pockets so that they had stuff to do, right? The government could do that now. We have a lot to do. We could put people to work building high-speed rail. There's all sorts of stuff we could do. But they're choosing not to. Again, I think we come full circle. I don't think that this country knows how to do this sort of thing. I don't think this is there's certain problems that America is good at solving, but this isn't one of them.
Oh, that's really well put, because this is an existential problem, and we're good at practical problems, production problems, even economic. But this is something different.
Military.
I mean, we could. I guess that may be what's happening. What we're heading towards with China. That'll help. That'll make things better. I think, especially in the nuclear age.
So that'll be the end of us all.
Well, not all of us. There'll still be some mutants. I mean, come on. And the mole people. Don't forget the mole people, Ted. Jeez.
Oh, yay, mole people.
You always forget the mole people.
Look, is there room? Okay, so there's no room within the system. I think we agree on that. So what?
No, there isn't. You're right.
In 1984, Winston Smith says, if there's hope, it lies with the proles. If there's hope, where does it lie? I mean, revolution, collapse, insurgency, independent party, something else I'm missing?
I think all of the above. We are entering waters now, Ted. And I hope our listeners and viewers aren't thinking I'm being hyperbolic here. Truly, I believe that we're heading into disastrous times where we could have revolution, where we're going to have hungry people with no way out because we don't have any infrastructure to help them out. And we have a disinterested leadership who doesn't give a crap. I mean, the oligarchs will care that they are making money on their interests, but they won't care about your interests or my interests, certainly. And so as food becomes less and less accessible, I think Mike Thompson is right. I think having food is the peg here, is the linchpin, because it's obviously, I mean, this will come as a surprise to no one within earshot of my voice, that food is essential to life. And when you start having difficulty getting that, then revolutions happen. And now what's the next step? This is where Ted and I will disagree. Will there be Ted Rall style socialism / communism? They're certainly teeing it up. Or will we go the opposite direction and go with anarchy, free markets, very localized economies? Some will be doing very well, some will not so well.
More likely. Unfortunately, more likely.
In America, because, look, I don't know about that.
We don't have an organized left, as we've talked about. So.
Well, you don't. And in fact, it comes back to the top of this podcast where I talked about Gen Zers not being very good workers. You have to have a hell of a work ethic for revolution. Look at what Lenin did, Stalin, all those guys who overthrew the Tsar in Russia and expanded and codified that revolution. The French Revolution, that just a lot of chopping going on in that one, but still necessary. And that was pegged to, say it with me, kids, food. There was a bread shortage, and especially, and people, and you don't deny a Frenchman.
Said that Americans would not revolt because they weren't hungry enough. But maybe that's going to change. The question is, obviously then there's the question of how, what are the chances of it succeeding? The security state is extremely powerful and ruthless. I mean,
yes.
Probably before we go, I would like to get your feedback a little bit. We should talk about this case of this looming possible constitutional crisis. The U.S. Supreme Court, there was that guy who was, by all accounts, including the Trump administration's Department of Justice, accidentally deported to El Salvador. Nobody says that he was supposed to be, but the strange posture of the administration has been like, ain't nothing we can do. He's in El Salvador now.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, he's in a prison in El Salvador that we pay the rent for, but nothing we can do. So the courts, federal courts, or two panels, the regular federal court and then appellate division, both ordered the administration to return him. Then Trump appealed to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court affirmed those decisions and said, yeah, you've got to get him back. And basically it's like, so the Trumpies are playing it too cute by half, saying, well, you haven't defined, we can't get him back. He's in El Salvador. It's like, okay, ask nicely for the Salvadorians to get him back. Do everything you can to get him back. And it's like, well, what do you mean by everything you can? We don't understand. So they're foot dragging here. Two questions. Do you think he's dead? And that's what this is about?
Yes.
Okay. And then the other part is, then make it three questions. If he's dead, what will be the political, obviously they're scared of that news coming out. What are the political ramifications of that since they are scared?
Oh, they're going to gin up that he was an M13, somehow. They're going to make that. That's going to be the spin on Newsmax and then, OAN, maybe even Fox. They're going to spin that this was a bad guy. He's a bad actor. and that, he got what's coming to him. He shouldn't have been picked up. If he was truly an innocent bystander, why was he picked up?
He's a family man, right?
Yeah, and this is a constitutional crisis in that the administration is openly saying "fuck you" to the courts now. They're saying no.
And this is the U.S. Supreme Court, yeah. And by the way, I took note of the fact that one of the justices, wrote in her concurrence that exactly what you and I said, that if by the administration's logic, they can deport anyone, including a U.S. citizen, and say, well, once they're out, ignore the courts, and once they're out of the country, say, well, there's nothing we can do.
Our hands are tied.
Obviously, that's not sustainable.
Right. No, it's
so. And when so basically, the judge is back in the hands of the first judge. She's very pissed off about it. She asked the government's lawyer to inform her what steps the administration had taken to try to get him back.
Yeah,
the lawyer had no answer.
No, she said "fuck you," pretty much, like stuff, bitch.
And then she said, and she was very clear to, very pissed. She said, like you're not taking the weekend off. I expect the answer like throughout the weekend. Like we're not. I'm on top of this every day. Like this guy's not supposed to be down there at all. So, like, why is he there? Get him back. So, well, I don't know how's this going to play out. Do you think?
Well, I can tell you. I mean, you asked me if I think he's dead. I think he's dead. That's why you would drag your feet on this. And I think that you throw someone like that into. If you've ever seen video from this prison, it's horrific. It's just horrific. If he had any medical conditions going in, this exacerbated them.
By the way, once point something out that I thought about the other day, John. So the imageries that we've seen from the Salvadorian private prison of like the prisoners being abused and like they're being frog walked like really low and treated like shit, forcibly shaven and all that. It was reminiscent of the images from Abu Ghraib, right? During the Bush administration. But you know what the difference is? You know what the difference is? The difference is the Abu Ghraib photos were leaked illegally by U.S. soldiers. These photos are being released by the Trump administration press office.
Bragging.
Doesn't that tell you all the? That's the difference between where we were and where we are now.
Yeah, well put. I think we can leave it at that.
Okay. All right, Scott, let's wrap it up. It's been always a great hour talking to you. If you're just this is the DMZ America podcast. We're best friends, Ted Rall and Scott Stantis, political cartoonists. You can check out our cartoons on our various websites. And also gocomics.com has both Scott's and my cartoons and some other people as well, many other people. And you can go to Center Clip, which is a audio mini podcast, like 30 seconds to 5 minutes long, which Scott and I both contribute to every week, several times. And that's and then we'll show you can buy my latest book, 2024, online. I'll show that.
New book's coming out, right?
Outro. Anything you want to talk about before we go? Yeah, new book is called What's Left. Never mind the Democrat. What's Left.
I love that. I think it's going to be fascinating. I've read it, so I've had the sneak peek, and it's wonderful. If you're a Democrat, you absolutely need to read it. And if you're a recovering Republican like myself, become friends with Ted Rall, because when the revolution does come, you want friends in high places. He'll say, no, don't line this one up against the wall. He's one of the good ones. I hope that's Ted. That's what you're going to say. I hope.
That is 100% correct. All right, Scott, always a pleasure. I'm gonna leave you on for the volume here. I'm taking myself.
Okay. So go check us out at gocomics.com, tedrall.com. You can see us all over the place. You can even Google the names. You'll have absolutely no trouble finding Ted Rall or Scott Stantis. Believe me when I tell you this. We're awfully glad you listened. Thanks, and we'll talk to you again real soon.